Alright, so with it being Wednesday, this is a interesting topic of conversation, just, in a hypothetical world. Let's talk about, for Pittsburgh, who should be the starting quarterback this week if Kenny Pickett is out with a concussion. Now, this is my opinion on this situation is probably one that's similar to others, but also very different. Now, heading in the offseason, we still had Mason Rudolph, who has been a Steelers quarterback since we selected him. Wow, that sounded weird. Since we selected him in the 2018 NFL draft, mind you, with a third-round pick. So we selected him with a very high pick, and they thought he was a potential first-round talent. Not my words. Those were their fucking words, not mine. Those were their words when they drafted him. That's why they took him. So, obviously they had high hopes. So, heading into this year, I really thought he was going to be the starter, just because, we waited 4 years. So, after we selected Kenny Pickett, I was like, okay, I guess they're just cool with Rudolph being a backup. I guess not, because they signed fucking Mitch Trubisky. So, for someone you, quote-unquote, believed in enough to be a third-round pick, mind you, when we had Ben, don't you think it's right we kind of owe him at least an opportunity to present what he can do in the league for one game this week? After what we saw with Mitch did last week and what we've seen, we have a good enough sample size of what we are with Mitch. What? He's had 5 games now? He started the season, and then he eventually got benched at halftime versus the Jets. So what, that was like game 3, game 4? Yeah, I believe it was game 4, because week 1 was Cincinnati, week 2 was New England, week 3 was Cleveland on the road. I want to say the Jets was week 4, so yeah, he had... And then Mitch came in during the Tampa game at the end, and then yesterday. So we're looking at roughly a 4 to 5 game sample size. And we know 2 things. One, he is mightily under-aggressive, right? The offense is absolutely stagnant. The play calling was very different, mind you, in the first month of our season versus now. We had no offense the first month, which was due to inept play calling and honestly Mitch just not being willing to push the ball down the fucking field. So now, looking back at that Ravens game, he himself said he was too aggressive. So now he was trying to force things. All right. Let's look at what Mason Rudolph is. I want to say his ratio was 13 touchdowns, 9 picks. That's not bad. I wasn't really a big fan of his after that Detroit game. But I really look back at that game. It was his fault to an extent, but at the same time, it wasn't really his fault that on some of those last drives, our players literally turned it over, Deontay and Muth. So he put us in a decent position to win, but just couldn't close it out. Mind you, it was a fucking week where at the end of the week, Ben was out with COVID. So Rudolph literally had no time with the ones. So I just feel like, considering this is a player that we drafted with a third-round pick, which is pretty high, you still can get a good starter there, or at least a starter. Why don't we owe it to him to at least give him a shot? That way, when he's a free agent, I think next season, he can go somewhere, and maybe we can even trade him for something. Versus, we know what Mr. Trubisky is. He's a veteran quarterback that's a backup, and that's what he is. That's just what he is. Let's be honest. And honestly, if Pickett doesn't play this week, I feel like we should really play Rudolph. Because I don't think Rudolph is going to... This from what I've seen, Rudolph won't kill us, but we'd have a stagnant, steady offense. When he played in 2019, he did get benched for Devlin Hodges, but at the same time, look who we had. James Conner was hurt. We had, Deontay was a rookie. James Washington was okay, but, Juju was hurt. It was just a fucking mess. I'm not defending Rudolph. He's an okay, probably a backup, but I just feel like after what Mitch said last week, it's just hard to trust him right now. And we've seen what Mitch can do. We know what Kenny can do. I feel like we should give Rudolph a game. I feel like we should. I mean, he's had the most. Out of these three quarterbacks, Mitch has had the most. Out of the three quarterbacks, Rudolph has had the most experience with this playbook. Yes, I know Matt Canada did help recruit Kenny Pickett to Pittsburgh, Pitt College, whatever. But in the NFL, since Matt Canada's been here, aka since 2021, Rudolph has the most time and experience with this playbook. And honestly, considering all the hate he's gotten and kind of the slander we've given him, I feel like we owe it to him to at least give him a chance this week. I mean, what do we got to lose at this point? What, Tomlin's losing? No, Tomlin's no losing season bowl. I'm tired of that crap. The standard has changed for this team in this city. We'll get into that more as the offseason goes on, but that's for another day. But I feel like it's Mason Rudolph time in Pittsburgh. Let's see what he can do Sunday. I know some of the media, they think Mitch should start. I think Ben in this podcast said he wants Mitch to start, and he's fine with that because he knows the game more than any of us do. And he said a lot of those interceptions weren't on Mitch, and I agree with that, but still, it happened. So, we're out. Mason Rudolph time. Let's give him a chance.